Welcome back to Nightcap Chat, the pop culture podcast. We talk all things comic books, video games, movies, TV, and more. Today, we're talking recommended back issues for Christmas. I'm Blade O'Neill.
I'm Ken Brown.
Oh, Ken, welcome back.
Yes, I said too. It's been a busy few weeks over the past few weeks. The holidays are here.
Yeah.
And getting ready for the holidays can be quite exhausting.
Yeah, I'm
in the
sure.
Business world.
Yeah, no, I know you've been at it, and I even visited you over there, and you had some crazy sales. It's Black Friday and Bright Sunday, or what is it?
Saturday. Blackest Friday, Brightest Saturday. Orders happen to be done the Monday right after Thanksgiving at 5 a.m. in the morning, which blows me away like that. It's cool that Diamond gave us a little bit of an extension, so we didn't have to have it due on Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Because usually they're due on the last Thursday of the month by midnight for a Friday morning.
Yeah.
And so they delivered an extension out, which was nice of Diamond to give us a few more days to get orders done during the crazy holiday season. So Saturday night, after being at the store from a 9 a.m. till 11:30 p.m. on Friday night, slept a little bit on Saturday, let the rest of the staff start up the store for a little bit, and then came in at 2 p.m. and got out there about 11:30, went home and did orders until about from 12:30 till 6:45 in the morning. I think I finished.
Oh my gosh.
So it's kind of weird watching the sun. I go, wow, the sun does come up before 7 a.m. during the winter. I'm going, oh my gosh, it's like just the day flies by. And so too, like we go through that Diamond catalog, which is about 400 to 500 pages per month of product, and making sure that we get the best stuff for our customers and make sure that all the right comics come in for subscriptions and double check, triple check. And by the time I was finished, I was like, wow, time to watch The Mandalorian and go to bed.
There you go.
You got to reward yourself, man.
And not to go too far off topic, but The Mandalorian has been great so far. No spoilers in this episode, but my goodness, I'm excited to talk about that again on this podcast. But you got Glendale Glitters starting up in Glendale, where your
Glendale Glitters
Comics is located.
Yeah, started this past Friday and Saturday, the opening weekend. They closed off the streets. They have that traveling ornament, the walk-through light ornament. Have you seen that yet?
No.
I guess it's a life-size ornament that you can walk through, and it lights up all around it, and a bunch of LED lights tied into it. It's just almost, I said too, from what I understand from the customers and the people in the area, is that travels from state to state. And it is residing in downtown Glendale across the street from the store, which is pretty awesome.
Oh, neat.
So I can't wait to see if it's still there. Are you sure it's not just this weekend? And they said, no, it's going to be here the whole holiday season. I'm going, all right, cool. I'm looking for it again.
Guess we'll see.
Yes.
So speaking of Christmas and the holidays coming up, there's be plenty of people looking for gifts. And whether you're into comics or not, or if you know somebody who is into comics, you might be trying to think of some good comic book reading. Whether it's for kids or adults, there are certainly plenty of options, and it can certainly be overwhelming, especially if you don't even know what you're looking at. So we've compiled a very small list here of a few good things to maybe check out, depending on who you're buying for, even if it may be yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of interesting. Thought just popped in my head. We were talking about this a little bit before the podcast, what we should suggest. Just something came into my mind is like, what about a best of stories from your favorite characters? Like Batman,
absolutely.
Spider-Man, XMen, Deadpool, Superman, Wolverine. Like, what are, that's what people ask me all the time is, I've got a Batman fan collector. What should I recommend to them? I go, have they read Hush? And
that's one of the hard things too, is like, if a non-collector is buying for a collector, like, well, do they have Hush? Do they have The Killing Joke?
Yes.
Do they have the Long Halloween? Like, oh, I don't know. Like, well, I mean, the answer is probably, but I mean, you can never, be certain. And, if they do have, the original copies of these, maybe having a hardcover copy to actually be able to read them without ruining your valuable book, that's always, a good option too.
That's something I tell people all the time. Is like, if they're really a diehard collector and they don't have the graphic novel or trade paperback, dude, definitely get them that. And that way they can enjoy the story, and then they can still show off the individual issues and like that. Hey, this is 608. This is 608 second print with them on the gargoyle. That comic's worth $200. So I'd rather not break that one out, but let me show you what the story's about by pulling out the trade paperback.
I have the trade paperback of the Infinity Gauntlet. And that's how I read it. That's how, I've had friends and family read it, and I lent them, that copy, but I have the Infinity Gauntlet issues as well. And not that they were ever valuable until Infinity War. I think they've actually gone back down now, if I'm not
they dropped a little bit over the past few months. And it's sad because it is the most penultimate Thanos story of all time. And just because Thanos got defeated in the movie doesn't mean he's not a major part of the Marvel Universe still in the comic world.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those are certain things I think that in the long term, even though the movies are impacting the current value of comics, that in the long term, these comics are legacy books, in my opinion.
Especially with X-Men being rebooted and the popularity of Deadpool, there's plenty of things that, that Marvel is going to be pushing, the other day, somebody showed me on Amazon, there's this giant, X-Men box set that reprints, I think it's volume 1 and maybe 2 of X-Men. It's $300. So, I mean, if you're, I don't remember which issue.
Die Hard X-Men stuff.
Yeah, that is Die Hard X-Men stuff. But I mean, if you do have those early X-Men issues, it's a great reading option, even though it is expensive.
I did see that the X-Men Omnibus just went back into print. That reprints Giant Size X-Men #1, and then X-Men, I think 94 to, I want to say 143, which is the major, I would say, Hollywood pinpoint of great stories that they seem to take from X-Men. You have the Phoenix Saga in there. You have the Death of Thunderbird. You have the Khazar and Savage Land stories going in there where they bring back Sauron, and they have the arcade storyline. They have the Mesmero storyline where the X-Men are trapped in the circus, which would make a great movie story. Sounds kind of weird saying that, but they have the Dark Phoenix Saga, the introduction of Proteus. They bring in Sunfire and the Japan story, which brings in Mariko, which is Wolverine's love interest. You get the introduction of Alpha Flight during that story run. You get the introduction of Moira McTaggart during that story run. You get Eric the Red during that story run. I mean, it's some of the most insanely great stories in X-Men history, all within that 45-issue run, or actually 50-issue, 60-issue run.
I just pulled this up. So it's the X-Men Children of the Atom box set. You can pre-order it right now on Amazon. I don't know. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't seen that yet. What is this goodness?
So it's on sale for Cyber Monday. We're recording this on Cyber Monday. It's a $500 set on sale for $350.
Wow. What's in there?
Well, there's quite a few things in there. So got X-Men Silver Age Volume 1. So it's X-Men 1 through 13.
Wow.
Fantastic Four number 28 and Annual number 3.
Okay.
Tales of Suspense 49. Strange Tales 120. Journey into Mystery 109. So that's 400 pages. So X-Men Silver Age Volume 2. So it's X-Men 14 through 31. X-Men Volume 3, which is 32 to 48 with Avengers number 53. So it's even got some of those crossover issues from the Silver Age as well. And then, of course, Volume 4, which is 49 through 66. Lost Years, which is a premiere hardcover.
The John Byrne stuff.
So it collects Amazing Spider-Man number 92.
Okay.
Incredible Hulk 150. Some various, Incredible Hulks.
Oh, I see.
And then it's got the Bronze Age Volumes 1 through 3, companion premiere hardcover. So that's collecting Phoenix, the Untold Story, material from, this is Foom, which I'm not familiar. Not Brand X number 4 and number 8, which is pretty funny.
Nice.
So I mean, a lot of good stuff on there. I mean, just between the Silver and Bronze Age stuff alone, because I mean, even a hardcore collector might not be able to get their hands on X-Men, number 1 and number 2.
Yes.
So just to have the ability to read these landmark issues, that's a great gift.
Well, do you know what Foom is, right?
No, what is Foom?
It is Friends of Old Marvel, if I remember correctly. It may be Fans of Old Marvel, but I'm pretty sure it is Friends of Old Marvel.
Okay.
It was a Stan Lee, remember in the Stan Lee soapbox? He would always talk about what's coming up in this month's issue of Foom. And so it was kind of like Marvel Age before there was Marvel Age.
Oh, I see.
It was like a Marvel fan magazine.
Yeah.
To more or less give teases of what was coming up at Marvel in the upcoming months. And the Giant Size X-Men was teased in there, talked about like there's going to be new X-Men before it even was obviously published.
Absolutely.
And so a lot of people consider that the first appearance of the new X-Men was in that magazine, since it was published by Marvel too, which is interesting.
Huh. That's pretty neat. Yeah, I wasn't even aware of that. Speaking of X-Men though, I don't know if there's been any recent reprints. I mean, you might know better than me, but I did know that they did do, I don't remember if it was soft or hardcovers of my favorite run of Deadpool. It's the Joe Kelly run, the 97, Deadpool Volume 1, I believe it's considered. There's some pretty valuable issues in there from a collecting standpoint. Nothing too crazy. Probably one of the more valuable ones are like the Black Panther and Punisher crossover ones. I haven't checked on the Ajax stories yet, which, that's Francis for those of you, unfamiliar. In the Deadpool movie, I don't even think they got to calling him Ajax or the Attending, because the Attending was almost a silly name. And that's what he was called in the Weapon X Hospice, which is the origin story that they touched on. But they kind of combined Dr. Kilbrew's character with Ajax or Francis within the Deadpool movies. But I digress. There are soft or hardcover collections of the 97 run of Deadpool. And if you know a Deadpool fan that has not read it, I do not personally consider them a Deadpool fan, because this is the quintessential Deadpool. I mean, this is the source material for the origins of Deadpool as, depicted, in the movies, and even like where his personality traits have come from, essentially. Yes. I mean, in modern Deadpool comics, they've gotten a little silly, quite frankly. And I don't really care for a lot of that more recent stuff, but I mean, like, this is the good old funny Deadpool. I mean, Fabian Nicieza did more of this personality development in some of these miniseries before the ongoing Deadpool that was written by Joe Kelly. But that's, if you know somebody has not read it, they're a Deadpool fan, like, this is the stuff they need to read. Like, this is the good stuff. I mean, there's great stories in there. Yeah,
the Deadpool Classics trade paperbacks.
That's it. Yep,
1, 2, and 3. I mean, the first one's got the New Mutants 98 in it, actually. And then was it Mark Waid that wrote the miniseries back in the days before Joe Kelly took it on?
I swore Fabian Nicieza wrote one of them at least, because there's 2 miniseries.
Joe Mad did the art on the first one, and Ian Churchill did the art on the second one, I remember.
Yeah, so one was The Circle Chase and one was Sins of the Past. And those are the 2 Deadpool miniseries that were after New Mutants 98 that were right before the Joe Kelly run. Yes. And I get them mixed up, but one of them is a story with it's like Black Tom Cassidy. Yes. And he's friends with the Juggernaut. And then there's a whole thing with Copycat, who is Vanessa, which is something that actually never touched on in the Deadpool movies. They introduced Vanessa. And Vanessa in the comic books, for those of you who don't know, is a shape-shifting mutant, but not like Mystique. She can only transform into people who are near her.
Okay, that's interesting.
Which is kind of weird. What's even more confusing is she's like a light blue.
Okay.
Instead of a regular blue.
Yes.
So maybe that's why they didn't do it in the movies, because, maybe that's confusing. And I can see how that's confusing, but I honestly have been waiting for that twist all along.
Yes, I said too, is like there's where Copycat was revealed. Remember, Domino appeared a few times inside the X-Force series. Obviously, New Mutants 98 as well. 99 and 100, right? And then
which is why on a technicality, first appearance of Domino is same as first appearance of Deadpool with New Mutants 98. But within the twist, it turns out that Domino, who was first appeared, was actually not even Domino up to this point. It was Copycat disguised as Domino, and real Domino doesn't appear until later. Incredibly confusing, but that's comic books for you.
Yeah, it's like X-Force number 11, if I remember correctly, was the true first appearance of Domino, where they had Domino pop up and have Domino fight Domino, which turned out being Copycat. I'm going, what is happening here? And you get 2 characters for the price of 1, which was kind of cool out of that.
Yeah.
And, Copycat obviously becoming like a major, and once again, wasn't Copycat Vanessa, who was the love interest of Deadpool for a while.
Yep.
Until Siren showed up in the Joe Kelly series.
Yes. And that was my, I don't remember if it was Siren or I think, Siren must have been first before Typhoid Mary stuff. But those were my first 2 times I've read about Deadpool having a love interest, and like they were neat. I mean, like there's this X-Men girl that, and he would sneak into the X mansion and visit her. I mean, that's cool. And she's Irish. I mean, how can you go wrong there? And you have Typhoid Mary, and she's crazy.
Yes. I know, dude.
And that was really cool. And that tied into, I think, like a separate Daredevil story, because then there was like an annual, and then like I think Deadpool ended up trying to stop Daredevil from like taking her out or something along the lines of that. Yeah. But one of your favorites is in the first few issues. There's Deadpool does some stuff with I almost called him Wendigo, but that is
Sasquatch.
Not it. Thank you.
Yeah, the first issue he took on Alpha or Sasquatch from Alpha Flight. I was going, this is awesome. It's like really pinpointing hardcore in that first issue that Deadpool's a Canadian.
Yep.
And I thought, that's cool. How fun would it have been to ever down the line have like Deadpool join Alpha Flight? He had joined the Great Lake Avengers at one point, but that would have been hilarious to have him take that replacement of Wolverine in Alpha Flight.
It's not too late.
Yes.
That's something I'm surprised they have. To my knowledge, I can't recall a really good Alpha Flight Deadpool team up. I don't think that's
not that I know of. I said too, there was that he teamed up with Sasquatch in that first issue.
Yeah.
And that's about all I remember. And I know, like, was it issue number 3 or 4 where he took on the Hulk, which is kind of an homage to Wolverine versus the Hulk, if I didn't even think about that until just there. And was like, what would happen if Deadpool took on the Hulk rather than Wolverine took on the Hulk? And it was kind of hilarious.
It's a great cover because so it's Ed McGuinness art, and we've got Hulk on the cover, and he's looking all angry, and Deadpool's got his legs wrapped around his neck, and he's going Deadpool smash. And Hulk is just so mad. Great cover, and oh man,
yes, it's like an annoying chihuahua chewing on your ankle to the Hulk there. And Deadpool's giving it all, the same type of thing, like Wolverine tried to way back in Hulk 181. But very, very fun how Joe Kelly kind of looked for the potential of Deadpool and really brought it out. And that was very, very cool, fun storytelling. And, I said it'd be great to see other Deadpool writers pull that out again, the same way Joe Kelly hit that to a T. And they started a new Deadpool series, I'm sure you saw too, Kelly Thompson. And Chris Bacalo's drawing it, which is some of the best looking Deadpool art I've seen in a long time.
Is it silly though?
It's okay. He's more or less defeated the King of the Monsters, and so now he becomes King of the Monsters on Monster Island. And so it'll be interesting to see where it goes on. There's people now hunting. I don't want to spoil too much if you haven't read the first issue, but the monsters are getting killed off, and you find out at the end of the last issue, Kraven's got new prey. And so he's hunting the monsters on Monster Island.
That doesn't sound too bad. Like
Kraven would be kind of fun.
That does seem fun.
Yes.
That's a very interesting kind of battle. Like I buy that. I feel like without having reading it, I feel like it's something that works within the Marvel universe. And like this is something, because I will admit, like even Joe Kelly pulled from the bottom on some of the Deadpool stories, but they weren't, I don't think they were too bad, because there was this story arc with a very obscure Marvel character named Dr. Bong.
Oh yes,
he's got a
She-Hulk,
he's got
Howard the Duck thing.
Yeah, he's a bell. He's got a bell for a head.
Yes,
and he was trying to help Deadpool regain his memories because he was having a hard time. I don't know, like coming up with his origin. And then there was this whole storyline. I think it was part of like the T-Ray stuff where he was messing with where he thought he came from. So like they were mixing stuff up. So like there was some fake origin stuff going on there first. And I think that was before the Ajax stuff when they got into his
true origin. Yeah, that kind of confused me reading that, because there was a point like where T-Ray thought he was the original Wade Wilson, and they put his brain pattern inside of Deadpool to make Wade Wilson, Deadpool think he was Wade Wilson when T-Ray was the true Wade Wilson. Or I said to explain that to me, because I said too, those were kind of confusing to me when I spot read some of that stuff in the past.
It's been a while. It was confusing.
Yes.
But essentially, you started thinking that Deadpool's origin was whatever, but it just turned out not to be the case. It was all T-Ray.
Okay, so T-Ray was wanting to be more Deadpool than he was himself in a way? Or?
Gosh, I don't remember.
Yeah.
That was one of the more confusing things, and I would love for this to have been one of the Deadpool movie plots.
Yes.
It would have been a great, I think, Deadpool 2, actually. I thought Cable might have been better served for like a Deadpool 3, because I don't know where you would go from Cable and the X-Force. I mean, like that's like some penultimate stuff, right there. Assuming you're not doing it as an origin, because New Mutants 98, the first thing he was hired to do was to take out Cable.
Yeah, G.W. Bridge, if I remember correctly, hired him to go hunt down Cable. Mm-hmm. Is that, if I'm right, G.W. Bridge was the name of the guy that hired Deadpool to go get Cable?
I don't know if that was the twist. That's who I remember it as Tolliver was who hired him. So I don't know if that was another twist that Mr. Tolliver was someone else.
Okay.
Because he, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Tolliver turned out to be somebody.
Okay. That's what.
And I just can't remember who that was, but I know it was Mr. Tolliver that took out the hit on Nathan Summers. Yeah.
It's kind of a whole lot of things happened to Nathan Summers over the past year. And I want to say it was out of last year too. Like, was it the beginning of this year, tying up what happened at the end of last year, where the future younger Nathan Summers assassinated the older Nathan Summers Cable.
Oh, and now is Cable that why is young the younger
Cable now inside of this new X-Force series. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of like that hybrid between the people that read X-Men back in the 90s and people that loved Cable the way that he was. Marvel kind of said, okay, let's try to do best of both worlds and have it be a younger uninfected with the legacy virus Cable, which was kind of interesting twist to bringing a younger version of Nate Summers back.
Yeah. I guess for new readers, a little less confusing having the son of Cyclops and Madeline Pryor, right? Because it's not Jean Grey, it's a clone of Jean Grey, but then he's like just as old as his parents. And like, how do you explain? I mean, there's so many comic book isms as it is. I mean, like, we're talking about stuff that we've read and we're getting confused because of all the retcon this was secretly this person, this was actually that person, and whatever else is going on.
And why now House of X and Powers of X, Jonathan Hickman gave us the cloning process to bring back anybody at any time. Yep. And now we can have any X-Man at any moment, and all of our dreams can come true, obviously.
Yes, the excuses have been written out for the next series and all the spin-off series like X-Force and my goodness, I mean, thank
goodness Uncle Ben's not a mutant. Yeah, that's all I can say.
Oh gosh, that's for sure. And if you're looking for something that's part of an ongoing run of comics, now that is it House of X and Powers of 10 or Powers of 10 and House of X?
Yeah, House of X and Powers of 10.
So we have all these spin-off series. So we've got a new X-Men run, which I think is only at number 2 from the recording of this podcast. We're at X-Force, which is also at number 2, the recording of the podcast. So one I was interested in picking up because it had Domino, as we've already discussed. My wife's a big Jean Grey fan, and she's in there as well. But we also got Kid Omega, Colossus, Wolverine, Beast. Gosh, what was it? Is it Black Tom Cassidy and what's the girl again?
Oh my gosh.
It wasn't Celine. We did this last time.
Yes, she was a Hellfire Club member for a short second too, and she's the healer.
Okay. But what
gosh, dude.
It's a cool little
Her name
series.
Is Sage.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. My apologies.
Sage. What?
My apologies. Sage.
Sage. So without spoiling too much, we got a little twist going on there, and they're trying to figure out some stuff. And then, so these people are essentially wreaking havoc on this utopia. Mm-hmm. And Ken, you brought up, you dug deep into what was a Chris Claremont run.
Yeah,
and
Chris Claremont's
you have a theory.
X-Men. I think these attackers on Krakoa may be the Neo.
And honestly, he had explained what this is to me, and I had to look it up.
Yes, when Chris Claremont first came back to do X-Men, he introduced a brand new threat to the world of the X-Men. That was way back, and I want to say 1999, 2000. It was right after they did the whole Apocalypse the 12 storyline where Cyclops and Apocalypse are merged together, and then Jean Grey and Cable had to go into his mind to pull Apocalypse out of Cable's mind, or out of Cyclops' mind. And then after that was kind of like the end all of like the Fabian season, Scott Lobdell run of X-Men.
Wow.
And Claremont was coming back to do X-Men, and Claremont came back with a new threat to the X-Men called the Neo. And I guess the Neo were a group of early superhumans that were created by the High Evolutionary to inherit the Earth. But they kind of got too out of control, and they just kind of more or less subdivided out into different clans. Like the War Clan was one. I'm trying to remember the different clans now. I apologize, dude, but one of the clans attacked the X-Men because they said, hey, we are the next step in evolution, not you, and so you need to be exterminated. And eventually High Evolutionary stepped in and put the Neo on their check and say, no, you've failed at your step in inheriting the Earth. And more or less chose mutants over the Neo, and the Neo were kind of more or less majority of them were scratched from the Earth, but there were a few survivors that are supposedly roaming the Earth at this time. And at the start of X-Force, there is like a council of humanity that appears to be going to be doing their best to try to attack Krakoa and find a way to overthrow the mutants before they take over the Earth. And what they throw at Krakoa looks very much like the Neo, but as I said, it's to be revealed. And that was my first thought was, oh wow, this could be the Neo brought back.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned the tattoos. Like in this one, they have the white ones, and looking back at some of these old ones, like they had these red, but they're definitely very similar in nature. One of the panels that we found when they're attacking Nightcrawler, they're shooting this red laser thing, and it's very similar to the attacks on Krakoa. So it's a solid theory, and I did a little research on the internet, and I haven't seen anybody really talking about this. So I mean, that would be a really interesting thing for them to bring up, because as far as we can tell, these people have just been sitting around, and no writer has done anything with these characters since then. So I mean, so why not? Why not now?
And Hickman's been looking at every single rock in XMen history and turning them up and finding whatever he can out of anything in X-Men history. If you read House of X and Powers of 10, you see that he hit that hardcore in that. And it seems to be continuing in both X-Men and obviously in this X-Force, because in the first issue of X-Men, they touch on the Supernova storyline. That was by Mike Carey and Chris Bacallo back in the about 2007, 2008 era of X-Men, where there was the evolved humans that were put into a ship and evolved 6,000 years into the future, like evolution wise. So now these people have powers and are brought back, and the X-Men encounter them in that Supernova storyline, and they brainwash Northstar and Aurora to attack the X-Men, and X-Men go, what's going on here? And they discover there's these genetic experiments that were evolved during that storyline, and they're out there. And in the first issue, one of them is rediscovered inside a test tube that's broken free, and Storm is the first person that person comes in encounter with, and she goes, oh, you're okay now? And she's like, the girl freaks out. She goes, you can see me. And then she was like disappears again.
I didn't even know what it was a reference to.
But that's a character that was in X-Men number 188 was her first appearance. And I need to unfortunately, I apologize for forgetting her name at this moment, but I'm going all these flashbacks of little Easter eggs or bird seeds that Hickman's throwing out to his writers, or the writers are bringing back to him and say, hey, he's probably asking, like, what are some of your favorite unresolved X-Men stories? Yeah. And I feel like that's what's happening right now in the X-Men books.
Could totally see that. I mean, they even part of their resurrection thing, involves, I don't even know his name. Is it Dodgeball or Golden Ball?
Yeah,
Gold Ball. Yeah. And he's total, I wouldn't even call him a C-list character. Maybe D-list character. And now he's useful because he's part of the resurrection process. They have pulled everything.
Yes.
So, this is something that we haven't seen in a very long time. So, I think that's totally viable. It'll be interesting to see that. And you heard it here first.
Yes, it's maximize the potential of what the X-Men can do and will do. That's another thing that's kind of scary too, is like how far will Professor X go to protect mutant kind now? Because at the end of Powers of 10, it revealed Moira showing Professor X, he's got to change his thought process. You no longer need to coexist with the humans. You need to show your dominance over the humans. And like you still can be kind, but nothing comes for free anymore from mutants.
Absolutely.
And that was very, very intense moment, seeing like almost turning Professor X anti-hero Punisher style. Not Punisher style, but like, there's more gray to him than he's either black bad guy, white good guy. Element to him now. And Professor X has always been like that, the white knight of mutants. And now he's kind of going, hey, I got to look out for my species as much as possible.
And there's plenty of different titles for you guys to grab, so there's X-Men, there's X-Force, there's Fallen Angels, there's Marauders,
Excalibur,
again,
when they brought back Psylocke fans. If you like Betsy Braddock, you got to see a brand new Captain Britain coming around here, which is interesting. And it may not be Brian Braddock, but enjoy that too, you guys.
Yeah, we'll see if that is any sign of things to come in the movies as well. And I believe New Mutants is the other title, right?
Yes, New Mutants is the other title too as well. And it's like the next generation mutants are still out there, and now there's a reassembly. Some of the ones that have been dead are now back again, and it's what they can do with Krakoa is an amazing thing. And the X-Men, I said too, if you've ever been an X-Men fan, they really want to pull you back into remembering not only the characters that were lost, but bringing in new characters for the next generation to enjoy as well.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, we're both big Marvel fans, I think, and I don't know about you, but Marvel, is definitely my favorite of the big two. But I mean, maybe you're looking for something for a DC fan, or you are a DC fan. DC's got I'm not much of a DC guy, but I mean, there's a couple of things that they've come out with recently that I definitely think are fun and worth picking up. And off the top of my head, Harlequin, I think, is the first DC title. It's a miniseries that I have purchased new since, I think, New 52 Batman.
Really? Wow.
I think.
DC started their Black Label over the past couple years. And it started.
And for those who don't know, what is the DC Black Label?
DC Black Label is it's a tribute to Watchmen, starting more or less the mature reader DC lines, stuff that takes place out of DC continuity. And if you remember Watchmen back in the day, every single issue, the first half of the cover of the spine was black, and it was written with a different color of Watchmen each issue.
Okay.
And I do believe that's where the Black Label origin is kind of coming out of origination.
I see.
To pay homage to like that, starting a new type of storytelling that was more mature for DC outside of their regular continuity. Eventually, Vertigo took over that pretty hardcore. And like Vertigo is now part of the Black Label, ironically. And if you actually look at old Vertigo labels, it was Black Label too, because it had white writing over a black billboard. Yeah. And so I think DC's paying homage to their more mature storytelling history and just coming up with a pure Black Label mature storytelling outside of their DC continuity. And that's the Black Label line.
So with that being said, these couple of Black Label things we were talking about, like, don't buy them for like a 5-year-old.
No, and it's stuff that doesn't tie into the rest of the DC universe.
So be conscious of the ratings, while just a little disclaimer there. But Harleen is one of those one of those darker stories, but it's a fun place to pick up for like a Harley Quinn fan because it does delve into her origins. So like that's really fun.
And what I love also more about the Black Label storytelling is they are self-contained. So you don't have to worry about like, oh man, what's going on before this in the book? It's like, it's great, almost like novel reading storytelling for comic book readers.
That's a fantastic point. And this Harleen, I'm going to call it a comic, but if you see it in a comic book store, you'll see my hesitation because it's actually a thick and a magazine size comic, you know, I guess. And the cover is even a little harder, I guess, than a regular comic.
That's cardstock.
But they're on issue 2 right now. Issue 3 comes out in the next couple of weeks or so. I think it's before Christmas, right?
Yes.
So there's only going to be these 3 magazines of this comic, and there's only one variant comic as far as I know for each of them. And gosh, like they're all great.
Yes.
You know. And the art is fantastic.
Yeah,
the variants are cool.
Is doing an amazing job on it.
Oh my goodness.
Especially if you've been a Witchblade fan, that's where
Absolutely.
he kind of really blew up as an artist, is like working on Cyberforce, working on Witchblade, Mark Silvestri disciple. Super. I mean, when I look at his work, it reminds me of a mix between Clayton Crane and Michael Turner.
Interesting.
It's just super beautiful to look at.
It's beautiful.
And I said too, is like that. Once again, both of those people came out of the Top Cow family too, as well. Clayton Crane and Michael Turner. And just Steven Sevick just found that sweet soft spot of making books look gorgeous.
Then the art is really what attracted me, or what caught my attention to the book, and finding out that it is a little self-contained story. It's only 3 issues in the miniseries. It was an easy sell. And Harley Quinn's a cool character. I don't collect a lot of Harley Quinn, but she is a cool character. They're taking some of this stuff for the upcoming movie, because they barely touched on her origins, but what we saw so far, it's pretty right on. Like she's a psychiatrist, she falls in the vat. Or I'm actually not even sure if that actually did happen in the comics.
That hasn't happened yet. She's got it's a great dive into her establishing a new medical philosophy towards curing crazy people.
That's within the Harleen story.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm sorry. Did I slip onto something wrong there?
No.
Yes.
No, but you're
okay. So I'm
right.
thinking about the original Harleen Quinn story.
Yeah, it's hard to say what's the original, right? Because for those of you who don't know,
because she did fall in the vat with Joker did throw her in the vat in the original comic story, if I remember correctly. Which
isn't even her first appearance. So where do you even establish that? What's the real? Okay, yeah, that's what I was getting on the original comics. Those will be interesting
on the New 52 origin during the Suicide Squad story of when Batman Death of the Family, where Joker was trying to recruit Harley. Is she on his side or not on his side? And one last type of thing of she finally finding out that this guy's just freaking psycho crazy. He's just trying to kill me.
Yeah.
And that cut the umbilical cord absolutely 110% of Harley Quinn being her own unique character, Joker free forever.
Interesting.
And it's almost like that was the turn in the fact of like, this guy's never going to love me. He's just, he's psychotic sociopath killer, even to the point of like someone that's been so dedicated and so loving and so head over heels caring for his success. He still doesn't give a crap about her.
And there's just something fun about.
She realized that for the first time.
Yeah. And there's just something fun about, reading tragedy. I don't know what it is about human beings in that. Another Black Label is is it called The Joker? I just picked them
Joker
up,
Killer Smile.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, the one that Jeff Lemire's writing right now, or Lemire.
With the green cover.
Yes, that's so good too. Did you read that?
No, it's in the next room. I have not read it yet.
So good. It's almost like it's interesting. It's like a prequel to the Harley Quinn story.
Interesting.
It's like Harley's not the first psychologist to try to work with the Joker and try to see if like they can be the one that can turn around the Joker into being a operable, normal acting person in society. And it's interesting is like, I love the introspect on that is while they're trying to help fix the Joker is breaking them. And that's what I love so thought-provokingly why, how that story's so good is Jeff Lemire flips the story on its back of the fact of this guy's supposed to be helping the Joker reform his life. And at the same time, the Joker is destroying his psychology.
Interesting. Yeah.
So thought out so well. And it's always family oriented too with Jeff Lemire stories. I'm sorry to go off on a tear there, but I've started realizing a pattern in Jeff Lemire's storytelling. He's got a really hardcore grounding in tying a familiar family element to any story he tells. And that's really cool that he does in this too, even as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun when, authors have like a certain thing,
theme almost to it. It's family to Jeff Lemire.
With the success of the Joker movie, it's obviously there's some kind of market to delve into these different aspects of the Joker origin. whether you know who he is or not, whether, he is Arthur Fleck, or if he's three different people, or he's not three different people, or whatever it is, I think that's, that's part of the fun, of these separate Black Label stories. And not to say that DC doesn't just do whatever they want anyway.
Yes.
But they can at least do it and bring in, good storytelling that they don't have to ruin by retconning it.
Yes.
And just, it's just a good self-contained story.
It's a great way of doing Elseworlds without having to reimagine the character completely. Because that's one thing I like about Elseworlds. It always had to be a complete reimagination. It's got to be Gotham by Gaslight, where Batman's in, 1800s Bruce Wayne, or, it's the Crimson Mist Batman where he was bit by a vampire, and things that are what ifs more or less than let's take the character for what it is and tell a story that doesn't have to affect continuity, but still keep to the root of what it means to be a true Joker or a true Batman story, like Batman Damned, like what happens when Batman's accused of killing the Joker, and can he find out what really happened before he's condemned for going too far.
Yeah.
And that was like really kind of a cool story too. That was the first considered pure Black Label series that came out. And then as they eventually moved Batman White Knight to the Black Label after, the first graphic novel came out. So it was along those lines like that. So too, it's out of continuity. It doesn't affect anything else going on. These are just great stories that we can just have free reign with and push the envelope to the character and not have it impact what's happening in the regular universe of it.
Yep. It's so much fun. Any other, there's a few Black,
Superman Year One is just finished up. They started a new Question Black Label series. And again, Jeff Lemire or Lemire, whichever you prefer, is writing that too. Yes. And the Question is like, I've never been a huge Question fan, and just reading that, it's like, wow, okay, this is really kind of a cool way to get people introduced to the Question, even though it doesn't affect the regular character. Absolutely. And I said too, like, Rorschach's based off the Question.
Interesting.
And it's fun to see that, totally different origin, private life between, the Question character and the Rorschach character. But the Question character is a journalist, ironically, but he's a opinion editor, talk show host, where he tells the people of the city, I think it's called Hub City, if I remember correctly when I was reading it, what he sees going on behind the scenes that is dark in the community. And then the politicians are coming at him saying, dude, you can't prove that. And especially in that first issue, the sister of the politician mayor is coming at him and shows up on the show and says, you don't have any found evidence on this. This is all speculation. And, he goes, there's nothing that's been proven on anything that you're saying during your op-ed show about my brother. Yeah. And it's interesting because as the story goes, he starts exposing the mayor for the corruption that he's doing. And the sister's kind of caught in the crossfire. And she's, once again, a family element of saying, having to deal with the fact of maybe, this reporter who is secretly the Question may be more right than she's ever known, being the sister of the mayor.
Absolutely.
So pretty cool stuff. I said too, it was kind of intriguing for that first issue. I'm going, man, for a character I really had no huge connection to, it's a great way to get me involved with wanting to read more about that character.
Yeah. And for those of you who are, maybe you don't know whether to choose something Marvel or DC, or maybe you do have some kind of a pop culture fan, but maybe you don't know if they would like, a Marvel or DC book. I wanted to bring up that Star Wars has a ton of
great material,
different comics. So right now there's a main series Star Wars comic that's going to be tying up. And I think they're going to restart the numbering.
Dude, a way to kick off 2020, January 1st, 2020, Star Wars #1.
Yep.
That what you're talking about is hitting stands.
So right now they're wrapping up the current regular title Star Wars run.
Yes.
So those back issues are all attainable.
Yes.
Right now. Have they released any soft covers of that? Yes, I know they've done some of the Vader ones
the whole way through too.
But I mean, it helps fill in the gap between up until Empire Strikes Back,
yes,
right?
It's a perfect bridge between New Hope and Empire Strikes Back.
So I mean, if you got a Star Wars fan, you're giving them more of the Star Wars story that takes place in between the movies, and it's all canon, it's all fun, it's great stuff, and it works,
Yes.
and especially with it ending, like you have a finite amount to collect right now, so like it's a more manageable goal. And I think notoriously, as things get canceled, their value tanks, once there's a finite number of a series, right?
Yes, that's that too. It'll be interesting too, because once people get more and more wind, if that's what that series was, because that was the first Marvel Star Wars title since Marvel reacquired Star Wars when Disney bought Star Wars out a few years back. And that is the first legacy volume that fits in within the Star Wars universe. And then obviously the Darth Vader that ties into that series too. The 25 issues of that run ties into that first Star Wars Marvel ongoing. And then Dr. Aphra also is part of that volume too, because she spun out of that Darth Vader in issue number 3, and she tied into that current run that's ending right now. I think at number 75.
And her issue is ending as well, and I think they're going to be relaunching Dr. Aphra with a different artist and writer, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm pretty sure, yes, right? They are going to be rebooting Dr. Aphra too.
So like that's another thing that's happening, and a great title. She first appeared in the comics. I think it was Darth Vader number 3, I believe. Besides from the comic books, as far as I'm aware, I think she's only appeared in a novel.
Okay.
Which I read it. It was called From a Certain Point of View. It was the 40th anniversary Star Wars book that it covers A New Hope.
Nice.
And it goes through the entire story, but it's from the perspective of different characters. So it's a compilation of short stories, and Dr. Aphra is one of the stories in there.
I can't wait to see more of her.
It's one story, and I forgot who wrote it. I think it was
because Kieran Gillen, I think, wrote the Dr. Aphra series, or I know the Darth Vader where she first appeared. Did Kieran Gillen go on to write the Dr. Aphra ongoing series? I'm trying to remember right now. So I know
she was on it.
Let me see. And Kieran Gillen is the current artist or the writer on that Boom series Once and Future as well, which is another great series people have been going nuts over. He's a super nice guy, the writer too. I finally got a chance to meet him.
Yeah. At
San Diego Comic-Con this year. He's from England and just total that UK British charm. Amazing person.
Yeah. Kieran Gillen wrote the Dr. Aphra story for the anthology From a Certain Point of View. So that's still written by the same
writer,
same writer. So, I mean, she's even more tied into the events of, the Skywalker saga, even through that. Super cool character.
Dude, she would make a great Disney Plus TV series.
That would be,
especially with the 2 droids that are the evil droids that hang out there, the evil Wookiee that's trying to hunt down Chewbacca.
000 and BT-1, I think.
These guys are so funny. Oh my gosh.
Super cool.
Yes.
Without spoiling anything too much, it's a great series. I'm not caught up on it just yet, but I mean, a lot of good stuff in there. And, it's really cool that she first appeared in the comics.
Yes.
And why wouldn't you want to have the comics?
Exactly. And then she is, I think, if I remember correctly, the first Disney Star Wars created character in the comics, correct?
That sounds correct.
Yes, because that's the 2. It was the early number 3 of Darth Vader, and Darth Vader started
that was right off the bat.
The month after Star Wars did. And so it's all within that first quarter of the Star Wars Marvel generation of that first quarter of year.
Yep. And there's so many Star Wars titles depending on what the person's interests are. I mean, we've got the tie-in comics for the
Vader Down was an amazing one too.
Yes, I have a few of those. There's even a trade paperback of Vader Down. There's tie-in comics. I don't know if it finished up right now or not, but they tie into the Disney
the Age of Republic and Age of Rebellion. Oh yes, I know what you're talking about. Yes,
the Galaxy's Edge.
Yes.
So they tie into
the Disneyland
park.
Yes,
which is cool. But yes, that was another thing I was going to touch on. Was there's Age of Resistance, Age of Republic, and Age of Rebellion. They're all just little one shots. So I mean, just pick and choose. Whatever characters you like. I love that there was a Dooku story. I thought Dooku was one of my favorites. Of course, there's Anakin, there's Obi-Wan, there's a Darth Vader, Captain
Vader
Phasma.
Dark Origins, was that the one I was recommending to you, where it shows some of those little standalone Vader stories about how, people think they can get around Vader and they really have no clue what they're messing with?
Yeah, I mean, there was that. You showed me that one issue, and I went ahead and bought it. Or like this woman on the Death Star falls, or thinks she's kind of crazy, and she falls in love with Vader, and she actually thinks she has a chance with the Dark Lord of the Sith there.
Yes.
But man, what a crazy story. That's the story that did stir up some controversy, but I don't understand why. Because I mean, how many people are there on the Death Star, and how many people are there in the universe hearing about Darth Vader? Like, I think this is a totally plausible story that, like, why didn't this happen? Like, I mean,
he was
the odds are, it did. Anybody in the spotlight arguably could potentially go through something like this.
Yes.
And how, it won't spoil it for you, but how Vader handles it, it's very Darth Vader.
Yes.
And that's what, makes the story great, because no matter what situation they put Vader in, like, he's still Vader.
Yes.
And it's true to his character. Like, nobody's just making stuff up.
Yep. It's stuff that fits within character of everything they're doing. I said too, like, a lot of people were kind of frustrated that a lot of the Dark Horse stuff is no longer relevant to the Star Wars universe. And with all due respect to that, there's maybe some great stories, but what they've handled with the acquisition of Star Wars, to me, answers so many questions that fans definitely will always enjoy seeing the answers to. I mean, the next Star Wars series that does start January 1st, it picks up right after the Millennium Falcon rescues Luke, after he finds out that Vader's his father. Yep. And just the fact of him looking at his hand and just trying to, he's in a daze. When I saw a little few preview pages.
I saw the preview of it too, when it's the hand, like, back and forth, right? From his hand and then back to him and stuff.
And it's so, like, him contemplating what this means to find out that the most evil weapon in the Empire is actually his father. And does that mean that's his fate? Does that mean, is there a way that he can somehow save his father? I mean, I can't wait to read all the thought processes of a Luke Skywalker that leads into this great, well-reformed Jedi that shows up in Jabba's palace in Return of the Jedi in that opening scene. Be some great Yoda stories in there. There's going to be so much good stuff, because didn't he go back to Yoda for more training that they revealed in Return of the Jedi? But they didn't show any of that training. Yes, and Yoda dies in Return of the Jedi, but he must have gone back to Yoda to get more training after what he found out about his dad being the most dangerous weapon inside of the galaxy. And what's he going to do to save the galaxy is what Luke put on his old shoulders.
Although he doesn't mention it until Return of the Jedi, that, because that's when he asked him, is Darth Vader my father? So he must not, if he does go back to Yoda.
He never brought it up to him.
He didn't bring it up until, which is interesting. So that means this is something he was internalizing.
Yes.
So maybe throughout the series, he's like, should I bring, no, like, no way. Like, maybe he's, like, no, he's the Lord of Darkness. He's lying to me.
Yes.
But, like, wait, no, but, like, I'm adopted. They're telling me he killed Anakin, but something's not making sense here.
And that transition from going to tan to black by the time he shows up in Return of the Jedi, because he never put on tan again in Return of the Jedi. He was staying in black the whole time. Like, he didn't go like that, oh, this is just to try to show Jabba that I'm evil. He went, part of him was turning dark lead up to Return of the Jedi.
And he was tempted by the whole thing with the Return of the Jedi. It was the Emperor was trying to, convert him there.
Yes, and is he going to hear the voices of Emperor in his head now?
Interesting.
Do you know what I mean? It's like there's going to be some great story tells that they can play with, but it is all filling in the blanks of what happened between those two movies.
Yep.
And that's what I loved about this previous series. And Empire and Return of the Jedi, that was the biggest cliffhanger in all the Star Wars history, was Luke finding out that, oh my gosh, dude, my dad's Darth Vader. And that set the whole tone for all 9 movies.
Yep. I mean, that's the twist. And that's why, in my opinion, and we'll talk about this in a couple more episodes, why you should always watch it if you're a first-time Star Wars fan and you're not familiar with the twist. 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, then 7, 8, 9, because otherwise you don't get the reveal that Darth Vader is Luke's father. But that'll be an upcoming, have a special Star Wars episode coming up here.
Can I ask one more Star Wars question real quick before we transition? Okay. I've always thought the balance of the Force was Luke. But after kind of thinking things through with this new movie coming out, is the balance in the Force Luke and Leia?
Okay. So
do you know what I mean? Like that there's the balance because Anakin never had anybody confide in.
I think
Kylo
there's a few
doesn't have
things
anything to confide in, but Luke and Leia help each other balance, so they never turn to the dark side.
So that's a great way of looking at it. Obviously, I think this is something that's really, really going to be answered in episode 9. But here's the thing. So Anakin, the chosen one, bring balance to the Force. So at the point where Anakin is becoming a Jedi, there are thousands and thousands of Jedi, and there's 2 Sith because of the rule of 2. Now, are the Jedi so caught up that balance is no Sith? You know, like, what is balance? Shouldn't balance be equal on both sides?
Yes.
So really, when Anakin falls to the, quote, dark side, what happens? He kills all of the Jedi and Order 66 happens. And now there's
the
2 Sith
there.
And like what? Like 2 or 3
Jedi's left over.
So technically, balance is brought at that point, right? Up until, you know, Luke comes up, they overthrow the Emperor, and he transitions. So now at that point, they start repopulating the Jedi, and Luke is training Jedi, you know, as we talked about, or as they talked about in episode 7. So now there's a growth within the light side. So what happens? Something with Snoke. Nobody has talked about it, but something with Snoke and Kylo Ren, and they kill people, and now there's a rise in the dark side. But the Force is awakening, if you will. So like that's where the Jedi always got more Jedi from, is like just people who are born Force sensitive. Once they start exhibiting their powers, they come and take them because, you know, Jedi don't procreate in any way. So like that's where they've come from. So now where is this all leading? Because we have to be ending the Skywalker saga, right?
Yes.
And now here we are with twins. Well, I think they're twins.
Okay.
I'm still convinced Rey and Kylo are twins. I don't care. So yeah, I mean, there definitely is something there with Luke and Leia, but now that whatever this offspring is with Rey and Kylo, if this is the Skywalker saga and this is about Rey, she has to be a Skywalker. She's either Luke's kid, but I think she's Leia's kid that is a twin of Kylo or something, that she like hid her when she was born. Now,
very much like Leia and Luke, instead of
I think so. Some kind of
hidden,
exactly.
The daughter was hidden. This
so
time.
some kind of symbolism there.
Yes.
No.
And that's been shown in patterns, which is like in Star Wars over and over again, which is great because if they stick with a pattern, that's exactly what they'll be doing there.
Well, now, so what is balance? Is equal on both sides, right? So what if after overthrowing the Emperor, who's trying to disrupt the balance, what if first of all, I don't want Kylo Ren to survive.
Okay.
I mean, wait. I don't want Kylo Ren to redeem himself unless he gets killed. But I think it'd be interesting if they both survive and Rey starts the new Jedi and Kylo starts the new Sith, and now balance is restored and everything's okay.
Yes, I could totally see that. And another thing too, that epiphany to me too, is that they had the Emperor Palpatine laugh inside the trailer. And an epiphany that kind of happened to me too is the Skywalker line was started by him.
Yep.
And because like that, Simi, his mom she claims like that she's never been impregnated, but yet she got pregnant by the Metachlorians, which they supposedly threw out. But the Metachlorians, the Palpatine talked to Anakin about how they could create life. And so he's almost doing the reveal to Anakin right there that I created you. Yep.
And now, I mean, this has been confirmed in the comic books that you could be reading.
Yes.
Hint that he did do it.
Anakin.
And like they showed it.
And so technically all the Skywalkers are Palpatines.
Well, that's why Palpatine being the final big bad here just works.
Yes.
You know, it started with him, it ends with him, right?
And it's more as the Palpatine saga than it's been a Skywalker saga.
Fair.
With all due respect.
Fair. So I mean, I guess
he went to that next level that no other Sith before him would go to.
Well, that's the one other thing that would work for where Rey came from then, right? Is something to do with Palpatine, which a friend of mine would be very happy.
Too. It's like someone said like that. Well, Rey could be a Palpatine this whole time. Going,
depending how they explain it, I would be okay with that. But yes, you're right. Everyone is a Palpatine technically at this point.
Except Solo.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. That's why he
Solo
died.
brought the balance to the Force. Just kidding.
Solo's the real hero.
Exactly.
But before we wrap up here, maybe people don't want to buy, a comic book. couple of things I actually found in your store, like
Yes.
is it Diamond Select makes these incredible statues.
Yes, and they're so well price pointed.
Yeah.
I mean, anywhere from like 50 to at the most 150, I think is the highest
I
price
don't even
point
think
I've
I've
ever
seen them for that much.
Yes,
you know?
it's like those are the resin ones, but they're PVC statues.
Yes, the PVC statues
are unbelievable sculpts.
great sculpts.
Oh
like
my gosh,
they're
they're
lightweight.
gorgeous.
The price point, I mean, $50. I
Yes.
mean, for a statue, and like you know,
And they're not small statues. These
No,
are
they're not.
like 1/6 scales.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so. We got a couple of them. Gosh, they're great. They're great display pieces for any collector.
Yes.
This is something that might be off of their radar, because I mean, to me, statues are so expensive. Like I rarely look at them, or it's not something like it's easier for me to like buy an action figure.
Yes.
You know, but for $50, I mean, like you can get a nice little statue Christmas gift, and like
Yes.
there's Marvel, there's DC.
Yeah, there's
so many great ones.
like there's independent comic versions of different characters. I mean, it's really a smart thing that Diamond did put out the Diamond Select line. I mean, they do action figures, they do the statues, they do all kinds of little knick-knack stuff sometimes too as well that are, you know, they have a previews exclusive pops even that Funko makes. And there's a lot of cool stuff that they have out for the collector that is also affordable too. And I kind of said too, like I tell people, hey, all the time, you want something that looks cool, dude, check out some of the Diamond Select stuff because they're doing a really good job with their creativity right now.
There's X-Men stuff. There's Batman.
Yeah.
And and then of course, Batgirl, Harley. Is there a Joker? I'm sure there is, right? I mean, there's got to be Spider-Man. I don't even know if I already said that.
Yes.
I mean, there's
Iron Man stuff they put out. I mean, there's
great selection.
Yes, they do a great job with it. The other thing I thought was really cool this Christmas too was the Funko board game releases.
Oh yeah.
Those were kind of cool. I mean, it's like that. I've been growing with the game of HeroClix over the years, and it's fun to see another superhero board game that is you're halfway between Dungeons and Dragons and Risk. Do you know what I mean? Something where you can have your figurines in there, you can do your adventure, role play game with your favorite characters, and they're so popular with the Funko looks to them.
And not only is there a DC one,
yes,
there is a Harry Potter one.
Yes.
So I mean, there's something for all kinds of different fandoms. There's Harry Potter. There's
Golden Girls, which is great.
Which I mean, you're really covering the bases here. And then they also have, I think there's a Rick and Morty set too.
Yes,
isn't
Rick
there?
and Morty set too.
So I mean, like even just beyond comics, like there's all kinds of pop culture ones.
The Advent calendars came out too. They have
There
a
you go.
Harry Potter Advent calendar, a Marvel Advent calendar.
And I think there's a Lego Advent calendar, isn't
Yes.
there? Or am I just making
but
stuff up?
I've seen Lego Advent calendars too, and it's just like it's a great era for holiday shopping.
That's right.
For your pop culture fan, it's unbelievable the cool stuff that's out these days.
So even though it doesn't seem like it, this was not our Christmas special, but there were so many great comic book gifts
season.
that this is the season, and we had to do a whole episode just on this. And we are excited to bring you a Christmas special.
Yes.
At the end of this month. But yeah, I mean, we're clocking in around an hour here for just the comic book Christmas gifts. But Ken, thanks for joining us.
No problem. It's always a blast. Sorry, I've been out and about trying to get everything tied up for the end of the year here.
No, you got a lot of. I saw all your social posts for Drawn to Comics. Got so many cool things in for Christmas season and a lot of great things. Where can people find out more about Drawn to Comics?
Yeah, on drawntocomics.com, on Drawn to Comics Facebook, and Drawn to Comics Instagram. And I want to give a huge thanks to all the support in the community. This was Small Business Saturday, which is something American Express puts on each year to help promote small business. And I understand like Amazon's and eBay's and all these things deliver right to your house. You don't have to leave the door, but getting that support for local small business and brick and mortars is hugely appreciated by not just us at Drawn to Comics, but all the small businesses out there really doing what they love. And not just for their, the financial growth of it, but for the fact they truly have a passion, or else they wouldn't open their business in the first place.
Absolutely. I mean, it's always important to support local businesses. I'll always encourage all of you guys to, do that when you can. Especially for things like comics, because I mean, otherwise, I mean, it will just be Amazon, and then your comics will be crushed, right?
Go digital, right? Go, no digital.
And of course, you'll find Nightcap Chat on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Nightcap Chat and at Nightcap_chat on Instagram. We're on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, and wherever iTunes distributes podcasts for free. We appreciate you taking the time to like, share, and subscribe, and kind of be a part of this every week. And we've even seen some of your reviews. We appreciate you leaving reviews, especially on iTunes. It's one of our biggest distributors where you guys are all listening. Like, if you guys can leave more reviews on iTunes or Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, and Podbean, that's great too. But we certainly do appreciate that. But that helps us to get recognized. And as a small podcast, like that kind of support, goes a long way in order for more people to find us and for Apple to recognize that people do like what we're doing and will include us within their advertisements, which is incredibly helpful. But thanks again for all your support. Thank you all for listening. Feel free to like, comment, and share some of the Christmas gift ideas that you guys are planning on or think would be great. And, maybe we'll even talk about it on the upcoming Christmas special. But we will talk to you all next week.